the day, as I always say, man, I'm a Dallas Cowboys hard here first. I live this team, I breathe this team, I'm passionate about it. This is what it's really about. The game is just excellent. Like Cowboys Nation was suck us. But what I can't control is repping my team, repping my star, supporting my team, and giving it all I got.
What's up, CFO gang? It's your boy Jay Tuck. Real Cowboys fans, stand up and listen, Cowboys Nation. Y'all know what time it is this Sunday. Yeah, y'all know what time it is. Our Dallas Cowboys will face off versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is going to be a big matchup. I mean, I know a lot of people try to act like it isn't. This is going to tell us a lot for both teams about how this season is really going to develop. Now, today's guest, I will say this. Sometimes I'm just kind of sitting back, whether I'm watching film or watching YouTube, and I get things that are suggested to me. And why this channel was suggested to me, I do not know, because I really don't watch this team, right? But I came across this content and I was amazed, y'all. When I saw this content, I was like, wow, this guy has it, man. I mean, it's insightful. The editing, the content, the context, man, I loved everything about this show. I had to get this guy on the channel. He just cheers for the wrong team. He just makes content for the wrong team, but I had to get him on the show. So CFO fam, let's give a warm welcome to my guy, Josh from the Philly Special. What's going on, my guy?
What's up, Jay Tuck? I appreciate that. I agree with you on everything except for I do cheer for the right team, but we would obviously disagree with that. But no, it's a blast, man. I've watched definitely your draft content. So I don't know near as much about the draft guys. So honestly, as I was leaning into like, oh, who should we possibly look at getting? Usually whenever you do a breakdown on it, I'm like, all right, that's probably a decent guy. So likewise, but enjoy having it and looking forward to it here. Definitely breaking down the game and the action. Big game, obviously, that we have coming up here. So
yeah, man. I appreciate that. Well, that lets me know. Okay, so this draft season, maybe I don't break down too many Philadelphia Eagles or any Georgia players, right? Secrets, because you guys have been kind of smoking the draft, right? So hopefully I'm not helping y'all out, man. But like I said, man, I came across your channel and I loved everything about it. You're a boomer right now. I call you the rookie of the year, man. You're like the CJ Stroud of the content community, man. You're doing great, man. I love everything about your content except the team. So speaking of your content, man, like, cause I know you're fairly new. How did you even get started making content and wanting to come in this crazy world of YouTube content creation, talking about that Philadelphia Eagles team that you represent?
Yeah, it's wild. It's crazy. And I don't know, I guess as a lot of things happen in life, you kind of stumble into it. You have some good fortune, some people that, I guess recommend or say, hey, you should give it a shot. But basically, I used to work for ESPN. I was kind of a grunt starting out, did that for a little while, produced on the weekdays and had a show on the weekends. It was ESPN Central Texas. So for people that don't know, I am actually in Dallas. So I'm a big Birds fan in Dallas. So there you go. But I mean, family, like born and raised, are Cowboys fans. So they thankfully haven't disowned me, but somehow I made it out. The odds were stacked against me. But became an Eagles fan. Probably, I can't think of it exactly when it was around the pickle juice game. I think I was like 7 or 8 years old. And my dad had been saying, hey, the Cowboys are this great team, but really, like, when was the last time that they won in my lifetime? Like, I don't remember any of that. So I have no problem saying, like, there's a little bit of a bandwagon fan, because I was 7 or 8 years old and the only channels we watched was Cowboys fans or Cowboys games. So I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. But yeah, fast forward, been an Eagles fan for forever now. And I was I hardly ever used YouTube, to be honest. It was like DIY stuff. Like if I needed to go on and get some tips, I'm like, all right, I'll go to YouTube. But other than that, I didn't really know. But I went to school at Baylor with Thomas Mott of the Thomas Mott Show. So he does a lot of other Eagles breakdowns. And so randomly, he was just we went to the NFC Championship game. And after that, he told me a little bit about YouTube, but I didn't think anything of it. And then a couple weeks later, he's like, hey, man, you should start a YouTube channel. So I gave it a shot. It's been a huge blessing for sure, but I'm learning constantly. I mean, the amount of things that I learn every single day, I can't tell you. And then, just being able to, I took some videography editing classes back at college, and I never thought that I'd ever use those again. And all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, well, maybe come into play here. So it's been a blast. And as you can tell from watching, I like to have fun with it. I love my Eagles. I love football, but it's still a game at the end of the day. So the way I view it is like, look, we can joke, we can laugh. I make fun of all the other teams, probably more than the Birds, but you make fun of yourself too. So it's good.
And that's exactly what it's about, man. It's just about having fun, and you never know what works for you. Like, my story is kind of similar to yours. Like, during the pandemic, I had no idea I'd be having a YouTube channel and doing content, but one of my good friends, Skywalker, who's the host of the A to Z Dallas morning show, does a phenomenal job. He's like, you got to start a YouTube channel. I was like, I'm perfectly fine. He brought me on his show, and I just had a blast. I was sitting back at like an old computer desk, man. My back was hurting. We just talked Cowboys football for 2 hours, but you never know what plans are in store for you. And I started this channel and opened up so many different opportunities. It sounds like your story is the same. But how was Thanksgiving, man? How was it when I know your family was sitting around the dinner table, watching Cowboys football? Because we play every Thanksgiving. I mean, that's some of the perks you get, when you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. But how was that, just being the Eagles fan, kind of sitting on the outside? Are you one of those Eagles fans that are hating around the dinner table, or you kind of just let the Cowboys fans have their moment when it comes to your family?
So that's a good question. This year wasn't as bad. I'm not gonna lie, because my wife is from Wisconsin, so she's naturally a cheesehead. She's a Packers fan. The whole family's a Packers fan. So we break it up. 1 year it's with her family, the other year is with ours. So this year it was with hers. So it was more so like, cool, I'll cheer on the Packers because it helped us whenever Detroit lost. So it wasn't as bad. But in past years, if you get together with the family and Cowboys are playing, I try to. Everyone knows that I'm kind of cheering against them. So I'll get some like ribs, or everything. Like everybody's like, oh, hey, did you see that touchdown? I'm like, yeah, I'm watching the game. Like I know, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I know Dallas is a good team. I have no problem saying that. Dallas is a very good team. And, did I like seeing you just onslaught to Washington whenever we struggle against them? No, but I mean, again, it is what it is. We have so far the head-to-head this season, and obviously we're going to figure out if we can sweep coming up here in a couple days. But yeah, it's always back and forth. It's nice to rub it in. I don't like to talk too much until all of a sudden, we've got the final result. But you guys look good. You guys definitely look good. And as Zach was eating the turkey leg, you guys got all the fixings there. So
yeah, man. Like I said, I was definitely surprised about the turkey leg. I was actually at the game, and I'm just looking down the sideline, like, are they eating? I was like, what's really going on? It's like, yeah. So they just had some fun, but I love that you're able to say and be honest, right, and have context. Like, listen, the Eagles are a good team. The Cowboys are a good team. We don't have to have this big riff where it's just like, we're the best and we can't be beat. Like, no, we're both playing well. We both have two great quarterbacks, and Sunday is definitely going to be a fun game. But I got to ask you this. Have you been to AT&T Stadium?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
And I assume you've been to the Link as well?
Yes. Yep.
You got to pick one. You got to pick one. Which one are you going to pick?
Oh, hands down, the Link. Without question.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
so tell me why. Tell me
Easily.
Why. Tell me why.
to me, Jerry World is too much of a distraction. Like to me, it's not like I'm going to see a football game. Like, there's football there, but I mean, I'll sit there and watch half the game on the big screen and be like, wait a minute, I paid how much to see this game and be here, and I'm not like watching what's on the field. I mean, don't get started to like how far up, but
Right.
to me, it's like, I don't know. I maybe am a little bit old fashioned, but if it could be a freezing cold game in the outdoors, not a lot of distractions, like there's the game, that's get to it. That's what I'm going for. So I like the camaraderie, the feel. I think you tweeted about this,
Yeah.
maybe, but you got the fight song, you got all the other elements to it too. Like again, to me, even though I'm not a Dallas fan for sure, but it's like when you go there, it just feels more of a I don't know, like a circus of an extent, because you're sitting there like, man, there's so many distractions, and it's nice. It's a nice stadium. Don't
Right.
don't lie. But as far as like if I'm gonna pick and choose, for sure, the link is it just feels like you're at a football game.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing, y'all. I've never been to the link, but I'm pretty sure that you're pretty much accurate with your analysis. I live in Kansas City, right? So I've been to Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah.
And Cowboys fans get mad at me when I say this, because y'all know I'm at every home game, and I will definitely be in the building on Sunday. It doesn't feel like football. And I'm trying, and I'm always the odd duck, and kind of people are sitting like, why is this guy standing up? Why is this guy standing up on third? Like, like, why am I looked at like the weirdo
Yeah.
from standing up at a football game, going crazy and spitting drinks and, what I'm saying, and wanting to get a stop on third down? So, like I said, I've never been to the link, but I probably will understand your reasoning, because it probably feels a whole lot more like a football atmosphere. Because like I said, Arrowhead is second to none. Like, I've been to Arrowhead, like when they broke the record, it's just chaotic football. It belongs to the fans. Jerry World, it don't belong to us. It belongs to the man upstairs, to Jerry Jones. So, sometimes, but it is a beautiful stadium to actually go see. Now, we talked about Jalen Carter, so I want to kind of backtrack a little bit to the draft. You guys had a phenomenal draft. You went Georgia when you got Jalen Carter and also got Nolan Smith. So what was kind of your assessment of your draft when you guys, walked out of that building here in Kansas City with your draft class to where we are today? How are you feeling about your draft class thus far?
I mean, I'm feeling great. I would love it if Nolan Smith had a little bit more production, but at the same time, just with a little bit of the size, the injury coming off of the shoulder, and where he's going to play, it wasn't too surprising that he wasn't going to get as many snaps. Now, Derek Barnett, who left, there's kind of opening there, so I think we're slowly seeing that. But I mean, regardless of who we picked there, whether it was Nolan Smith or, insert any player you want to, the fact that Jalen Carter fell to us at 9, I mean, that was already. Now, I won't lie. I was on the big, hype of Bijan train. Let's get Bijan and, add to the running back to this offensive line. But it was also of the understanding that, or the supposed understanding that, like, Jalen Carter's not going to be there at 9 or 10. He's going to go at 3, 4 at the latest, and all of a sudden you're sitting there like, are you kidding me? We're going to get Jalen Carter here? So it's the best situation to be in. And, again, whether he tanked his pro day, whether he showed up out of shape, there was some distractions, obviously the off the field stuff that he's dealt with.
Right.
I don't know. But it's not a better place for him to be in, because, again, he's got the familiarity with the Georgia players. So I love the draft. I was going crazy. I mean, I love the fact, too, of all the back and forth. Obviously, people are like, how is Howie Roseman doing this? I don't know. But, I mean, I'm not complaining about it,
Right.
So it's one of those that I'm definitely enjoying. We'll take it. And obviously, you've seen what Jalen Carter's done so far. So I think he's point proven from that side. But, whenever it happens like that, I hope Nolan Smith is one of those that can live up to the expectations. But again, it's probably not till next season, most likely. So we'll see.
I agree. And salute to my guy, Joe Castro, another Philly content creator for the Philly
Love Joe.
podcast, man. Joe. So we were at the draft together, sitting arm to arm right there at the podium. And he's like, the pick is in. We're getting Jalen Carter. I'm like, Joe, stop. I know you're getting Jalen. He's like, just nudging me. I'm like, and there it is. The pick is in, and they got Jalen Carter, man. It was a phenomenal pick. And if there's any place that says Jalen Carter, it's Philadelphia. There was talks about Seattle getting him, which Seattle would have been a good fit, but then you guys would have probably got Devin Witherspoon, and he's playing lights out as well. So it's like, when you guys got Jalen Carter, I was like, okay. But then when you circle back around and got Nolan Smith, I was like, God damn, what is going on? Like, all right, stop. Stop the madness, right? So I think that's, once again, man, a testament to Howie Roseman and having those picks. Now, this year, man, I hope he flops, man. I hope everything is over and said and done with y'all draft magic, because as of right now, I would say when it comes to the Cowboys class, we pretty much have Mozzie Smith. We have Luke Schoonmaker, who's starting to emerge, but we lost one of our valuable assets in Demarvion Overshown, who I thought was going to be one of the top linebackers and one of the top players out of this year's class to the ACL. Deuce Vaughn didn't work out. We had awesome, so our draft class is pretty much only like 2 people right now. So we really haven't gotten much value, but maybe in the future we will. But I see that you guys with Jalen Carter, which will probably be the defensive rookie of the year. I mean, if we're being honest right now, I mean, he's just playing lights out. So congratulations, as I'll say. So
I appreciate that. And I'm not going to lie to you. I was very heated. And this is recorded because, we were live streaming as a lot of people were during the draft. But at first, the report was, at least on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, but the pick was in for Dallas, and I think it may have been Dov Kleiman or just one of the accounts that said that Dallas had picked Nolan Smith. And as soon as that happened, I was like, no, you got to be kidding me.
Right.
You're looking at who's after Dallas. You're thinking it probably won't take Nolan if Dallas doesn't take him.
Right.
And so then whenever it was Mozzie Smith goes in there, I'm like, all right, sweet. Okay. Reverse that and get Nolan there. And, again, I mean, if you look at my channel, I'm probably the biggest, I'd say self-proclaimed Nolan Smith fan in Philadelphia. So there's so much coverage right after the draft leading up to it. So I got a ton of hype for Nolan, and I'm sure I'm going to hear it from Philly fans if he turns out to be a bust. But again, we're very early on, we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, very pumped about that. I agree with you. I thought Overshown would be play really well. Unfortunate with the injury and thing, but I went to Baylor, so naturally, I know Big 12 players. If I'm going to know a conference more than others, it'll be the Big 12. So
exactly.
I don't know. You see the potential there for sure.
Yeah. DeMario Overshown definitely has potential. Like, he was pretty much leading the charge for our defense when I was out there at camp. Like, this kid's going to be special. And like when he went down, man, that kind of hurt. But like I said, I think the future for the Cowboys and the Eagles looks bright, because that's the one thing that we do well, and you guys have done well as well, is you draft well and you also develop well. So you got a lot of young talent in house. So there's one thing, like, Cowboys fans, if you look online, you look in chats on social media, we always defer. We're back and forth. We bicker, right? But there's one thing that the Cowboys and the Eagles have in common, and that's by getting the brakes beat off of us by the 49ers. So let's go back to last week. What happened Sunday versus San Fran?
Yep.
Yeah, we got to talk about it. I'm not going to let you off the hook, man. What happened?
Understandable. That was one of those. Oh, my gosh. I mean, I don't know. I said it multiple times leading up into the game. I was very cautiously optimistic at best. I would say I really felt like the strongest test, and it's easy to say this after the fact, but it's on record that I said it beforehand. But again, it's like going into that game, it just felt like very similar to the feeling of, and I guess you see some of the reactions, but the way that the Niners kind of approached that game to begin with, right? Like, I mean, obviously the NFC Championship rematch, and they felt slighted, and they talked all this stuff before, right after the NFC Championship game, all throughout the offseason, all that. So you knew that they were motivated. To me, it was like, it looked like we got beat before the game, or it looked like we were going to, because you look pregame, we're kind of getting, shown up a little bit. There's that intensity. We're not getting into, I don't mind scuffles pregame I'll just put that. I don't mind. I want to see the players hyped up. Let's show the physicality. Let's be intense. And I didn't see it. Like, before the kickoff even, there didn't appear to be that. And so I was like, oh man, this doesn't look good. And then naturally, the start of it was like, okay, hey, maybe we'll be all right. And then, the 6 straight possessions of touchdowns, the defense can't do anything. So the matchup to me didn't feel great either. We know what Kyle Shanahan can do, certainly with the motion. And we were playing over the backup linebacker who shockingly was waived. I didn't really understand Christian Ellis, and then he got picked up by the Patriots. So, but still, you're playing with a backup linebacker. We've had weaknesses. You guys know, because you torched us with CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. So if I got to say this week too, that is the huge concern that I have, is Jake Ferguson and CeeDee Lamb having a second game like that, because the middle of the field has been a disaster for us. And so that was kind of the constant in that game. But honestly, to me, it comes back to physicality, and we just didn't meet the 49ers there. They destroyed us. They ran us up and down the field. I'm hoping that A.J. Brown said they got it fixed. So, we'll see Sunday. But it was not a fun game. Naturally to
Right.
say, it was not a very fun game to watch.
Yeah, and I agree. And a lot of people really don't understand that. You know, I play the game, not sure if you play the game as well, but it's like sometimes that mental edge before the game, it just sets the tone. Like it's something with that boom box, man. They come out there with that boom box, they walk all over your field, they walk through your warm-ups, and they kind of just set the tone. And I remember, I'm not sure if the 49ers followed me, but it's like I was watching the first two drives, and I was like, the 49ers look off. They look kind of scared right now. Like they're kind of out of their element. And they said, you know what? You're right, Tuck. I forgot we got Christian McCaffrey. And just like and after that, it was just like off to the races. And just the Eagles were never able to settle back in. So, you know, we saw the comments today about Nick Bosa talking about, you know, how the secret sauce is to stop Jalen Hurts, which hopefully the Cowboys might try to implement. But it seems like the Eagles just wasn't on their game. And to be honest with you, I feel like Jalen Hurts missed a lot of opportunities. Now, I personally believe the absence of Dallas Goedert probably impacted you guys a little bit. So hopefully you guys don't find a rhythm on Sunday, but after that, feel free to do whatever. You know, so Sunday night, I want you guys to show up just like you showed up, you know, versus the San Francisco 49ers. So hopefully my team can go ahead and get that kind of victory. But the one thing that did happen post that loss, man, there was a back and forth once again, and it was the negotiations for the, I guess I thought the winner would be to get Shaq Leonard. So we didn't get him. He ends up going to Philly. So tell me a little bit, because you mentioned about your linebacker play, but what is Shaq Leonard going to bring to your defense?
Well, first off, it can't get any worse in my opinion.
Right,
so
right.
I guess to start from there, it should be better. But overall, you know, I'm hopeful that we see a you know, I don't know what, 70% of a Shaq Leonard from pass, because most people probably know, but he's, you know, 3-time All-Pro. He can play well, but coming off the back injuries and the surgeries, and he talked about like I don't think he ran or did anything really extensive for like 6 months. So, I mean, you know, if I don't do anything for 6 months, I can't walk upstairs without being winded. Right. So you're trying to play, you know, professional football game there. I mean, that's tough. And so I think you've seen that, and there's a reason that the Colts waived a player like that. If he was at an All-Pro level, you know, he's not getting let go. So I don't know. I'm hopeful, you know, maybe he finds the fountain of youth. He's somewhat of a version of himself of the past. But overall, I mean, really just getting that mindset, the awareness on the field, kind of hopefully seeing things before they happen, because in my opinion, that the linebackers just started, and I guess they kind of were this way most of the season, but with Desai's scheme and also the linebackers, it felt so reactionary at times. It was never a, hey, I see the play happening before it actually takes place. Maybe that's what we get from Shaq. I'm hopeful, but to me, the concern is just, you know, can the body hold up? Can he, you know, be decent there? Right. But the hope would be in coverage, because again, like you guys know, Jake Ferguson, and I told people this too. I mean, if you have Jake Ferguson or CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee Lamb's, I guarantee you're going to play him in fantasy. But if you have Jake Ferguson and you're debating on a starting tight end, you know, like it should be a no question. If you have a tight end playing the Eagles, you start the tight end, because it's been a nightmare. It's every single game. Now, I hope that I end up being wrong on that statement this week and say that, you know, something helped with Shaq Leonard. But so far, you know, it's just been one of those constants on that side. So I don't know. I'm hopeful, but to be honest, I'm not 100% sure of expectations, what we'll see from him on the field, because again, you know, it's very rare. It happens sometimes, but it's very rare that a player gets let go, and then it's all of a sudden like, wow, this guy's incredible. Like, why in the world would the Colts get rid of him? Plus, they're in a playoff hunt, you know, so they're not tanking. So I don't know. I'm hopeful, but we'll see. It's going to be a tough matchup.
Yeah, and of course, that's always kind of the element, right? Whenever you lose a bidding war with a free agent, a lot of Cowboys fans are like, oh, the Colts got rid of him because he's washed, he's old, you know, so it's kind of that whole thing, right? You know, it's like, you know, when that girl doesn't take you to the prom, she wasn't that cute anyway. But it's like, when it comes to, who wants to go to the prom with her? Who cares, man? You know, she doesn't look that good. Like, look at all that makeup, you know? So it's like, I get it, but it's like, I feel like the thing that a lot of people, even Eagles fans, probably have to lower their expectations. Like you say, will he be the 2021 All-Pro Shaq Leonard? I hope not, right? But I think the most important thing is, like, when you guys go and add players, whether it's like a Julio Jones or Ndamukong Suh, or I know your conversation about possible Zach Ertz, sometimes it's just that one play that changes the course of the season that they're able to go out there and make. And sometimes it might be a fumble recovery that Shaq Leonard gets, or, you know, a third down stop or a fourth down stop. So those little things can add up. And the thing when you look at this Philadelphia Eagles defense is the miscommunications on defense. Like, the linebackers were just out of sync. Like, they were running around like a cat chasing a laser light. So I think just having a veteran guy like Shaq Leonard is going to really help that. and help you guys. And that's what we were wanting him for, because we lost Leighton Vander Esch with the neck injury. We got some young guys. We got Damone Clark, who's played well. We got Marquise Bell, who's an undrafted free agent, kind of safety converted hybrid linebacker. But outside of that, you got me, so it's like you kind of run out of options. And so I think that's why we were kind of in the bidding war. We also brought in Zach Evans. So we also brought in some other guys, but it's just Jags is what I call them, just the guys. It's not that impact guy that you need when you're actually going out there to try to make a playoff run, a championship run that both teams are trying to do. Now, hot topic button, like I said, I feel like the fun thing about Sunday's matchup is there's another quarterback matchup going on in the AFC, but no one's talking about that one. Like, no one's talking about the Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen Bowl, because they had this fabulous, prolific, playoff matchup and went in overtime. Everyone is focused on Jalen Hurts versus Dak Prescott. I think we're pretty much neck and neck at this point for the MVP race, and Purdy kind of just wiggled his way at the party, right? But what is your honest thoughts when you sit back and watch Dak Prescott, just from a contextual standpoint, when you look at the Dallas Cowboys quarterback? Because I know you're in Dallas, so you get a lot of it. So. Oh
yeah, for sure. I get a lot of it. I hear a lot of the local radio, so it's not a lack of it for sure. It's interesting because I have no problem saying Dak is good. The Cowboys are very good. And Dak seems to have found a different level. Now, whether that's completely on Dak, whether that's a combination of the offensive play calling, whether that's, we should give Mike McCarthy a little credit for that. Whoever you want to say, he's played well. The question that, I'll always come back to, I know everyone does, is can he win a playoff game? Can he get you out of the divisional round, outside of that? But in terms of like regular season, I mean, he torched us. Like, the defense wasn't great, but he took advantage of all the outcomes. Now, I love the fact that he got flipped and, we made memes out of it and everything else, and he lost. So that's great. But as far as, did Dak Prescott lose you the game? No, not at all. Well, until, I guess the last minute drive. So maybe he could have converted there. But still, you say overall, just stats wise, definitely the last several weeks, he's been making a case for MVP. So it's one of those that maybe in past seasons, a couple years ago, I wouldn't have been as concerned of saying like, hey, Dak Prescott's a quarterback that can beat you. He can torch you. He can take advantage of mismatches. He's going to see things. He's going to recognize. But to me, I mean, just from the games that I've watched and some of the film breakdowns and naturally, against the Birds, it feels like he's processing things quicker and he's recognizing things. And again, I don't know if that's just an element of him personally or if it's a combination of those, but I was kind of hopeful, and I don't mind saying either. I was trolling as well of the whole, not going to have 10 interceptions again, not going to have this many and all that. I was hopeful that we're going to all of a sudden get there and be like, well, okay, told you so.
Right.
But he was focused, he showed up, and he's actually proven it. So there's some concern. I'm not going to lie. I mean, if I've got to say what's the main concern for an Eagles team right now, and whenever I watch every game, the initial, and there's lots of flack that gets to the offensive coordinator and the offensive side of the ball for sure, but to me it's like it's the same scenario every single game. We are dead last in third down percentage, so we saw a number of times against Dallas. I mean, you guys were 3rd and 14, 3rd and 19. It didn't matter. It's oh well, there's another converted third down. It's like, are you kidding me? We can't get off the field here. So if we allow that again and we can't get home with the pass rush, I'm hopeful that'll be the equalizer, but there's going to be a little concern there. I think it's going to be a good game, but I don't know. It's one of those that there's definitely a little bit of concern, certainly in Dallas with a 14-game win streak, and you guys finally beat a over 500 team. So I'll give you that. I'll give you the credit there.
Jets count, man. The Jets was 500.
That's true. That's true. I know, but everyone loves to go with. That's the great thing about the stats, right? The stats and analytics. We can make it say whatever we want.
Oh yeah.
Because you go back and say, well, they're not really a 500 team now. They were, but whatever. So
yeah.
But no, that's kind of where I'm at. There is some concern level, but I'm interested to see how they play on that side. Curious, I guess maybe to flip the question on you though, right? So Jalen Hurts, I mean this is the big battle. This is the MVP. Whoever wins maybe vaults themselves up there to first, or kind of a clear-cut favorite. What do you see? I know there were some misses last week, and I totally agree with you on that side. But in terms of playing a Jalen Hurts, this offense, your kind of honest thoughts on that side?
Yeah, when I look at Jalen Hurts and also Dak Prescott, they're very similar. Like, if you kind of take them coming out of the draft, right? They're both guys who kind of always counted out, but they always kind of rise to the top and had strong leadership qualities. So even back when I started making content in that horrible 2020 season, when you guys drafted Jalen Hurts, I remember doing an Eagles roundtable, and I said, listen, Carson Wentz's job is in trouble. Jalen Hurts is coming. Well,
Mhm.
are you crazy? Where'd you guys find this guy? He's a stupid
I would
Cowboys
have
fan.
said that too.
Man,
I would have
I'm
been
just like,
saying it.
I'm just like, no, this guy is talented, and Jalen Hurts, if given the opportunity, a real opportunity, he's going to take Carson Wentz's job, right? So when you watch Jalen Hurts, right, you see a lot of relentlessness. Like, he's always going to be feisty. He's never going to give up, and you see that in some of his play this year. Now, where I think that Jalen Hurts is kind of lacking, I think the Eagles, and you'll probably talk about this as well, from going from Shane Steichen to Brian Johnson, I just think things are off from a schematic standpoint when it comes to your offense. And I think it's going to take some time to develop what ultimately is your guys' identity. I know you guys had picket signs outside the front office about running the ball, like different things. So it's like they're trying to get outside the scheme. And when I watch this Eagles team, it's like, a lot of the things that you saw last year with the heavy RPOs and the run game and the play, like, it's just not there. So I feel like maybe they're trying to make him as a quote unquote pocket passer, and that's not his game. And so, like I said, Jalen Hurts has all the qualities you would want in a quarterback, but I feel like if you don't put him in the right situation, things can get a little bit clunky right now. And here's where I kind of told Eagles fans what probably happened. The bar was set so high last year because that was like a real true MVP season. Then he got the money. So a lot of people are kind of holding him accountable to what he put up last year as far as number-wise. And I'm like, he's not playing bad, but it's just like he's just not playing there. So I see some fans are like, he wasn't worth the money. But I know Eagles fans and Cowboys fans are always going to bicker about something. But like, Jalen Hurts isn't playing bad. He might not just playing like he was playing last year, but he's still having a phenomenal season. And I feel like if you guys are going to get back to ultimately where you're trying to go to be a championship team, it starts and it ends with Jalen Hurts, and he's the caliber quarterback that can get you there. Because when things hit the fan, and this is something I said in my film breakdown when I broke down Dak Prescott, is can you just make something happen, right? When you have to go off script, just make something happen. And that's the one thing that Jalen Hurts does well. I mean, there were some games where he stood in the pocket and took a shot, took a deep throw to Smitty or A.J. Brown, or used his legs for the walk-off touchdown versus Kansas City. Like, those types of things matter, and I think your team really rallies around it. So that's the things that, when I watch Jalen Hurts, phenomenal quarterback. I mean, I like Jalen Hurts coming out of the draft, and like I always make fun of Eagles fans. I was like, I was higher on Jalen Hurts than a lot of you guys, because when I remember I tweeted, I was like, damn, Eagles got Jalen Hurts and did all the eye emojis. Like, okay, they got them one. Oh, you're crazy. I'm like, nah, bro. Because I watched him. I watched him at Alabama, and I even watched him at Oklahoma. So he's a definitely talented guy. So, like I said, I feel like the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles not only have the best quarterbacks in the NFC, but top 5 in the NFL. I know we always kind of get discredited. They want to put Dak at 15 and, Jalen Hurts around like 9 or 7. But no, I think when you look at the NFL in totality, Dak and Jalen Hurts will have to probably be in your top 5 unless you just want to be an ultimate hater. So this was going to make Sunday night fun because, some of the matchups prior to our last game, we never got to see the back and forth besides when Jalen Hurts was still kind of emerging and we kind of 40-balled y'all. But now, since they're both grown, both in their Super Saiyan mode, it makes it even more fun because I feel like they got 2 competitive quarterbacks.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm pumped.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be at the game too. So
okay. Well, yeah, man. So I'll be out there.
Yeah,
the link up, man. So.
I am. This is, I guess there's all sorts of streaks, but I'm undefeated when the Eagles play at AT&T and actually go to the game. So, for what that's worth, that's 3 games. So we'll put that in there.
Well, something has to give because something's got because I'm 5-0. So what I'm saying.
Are you really? Okay.
Yeah,
okay. We got a lot of streaks up on the line there. So,
if the Cowboys start losing, man, we gotta find Johnson, take him out to the out in the parking lot, and drag him out the stadium, man. You gotta get up out of here, man. Gotta get up out of here, man. But speaking of Sunday's matchup, right? So there's a lot of expectations. Sunday night football. Sold out building pretty much, y'all. Cowboys Nation, Eagles Nation, everyone's going to be in, like, you got to pay like top dollar to get a standing room ticket, right? So I want to start with the offensive side of the ball. So tell me a little bit about what is your thoughts when it comes to this run the ball mentality that a lot of Eagles fans are pressing for online. Like, do you want to go back to what you pretty much saw last year, or what is it really about?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. I love the fact that you mentioned it earlier, but I love the fact that they were picketing right outside the NovaCare complex and telling Sirianni and everybody else to run the ball. I mean, that's what we need to do. It's not, and I think most fans realize this, but it's not as simple as just run the ball. There's some flaws, the offensive line has not played near as well as it did last season. And I think there's a little bit of maybe that intensity, that physicality. And I brought up the question too on my last show yesterday of, if I was to ask someone like, what's the identity of this Philadelphia Eagles football team? I don't know that you could really answer it completely.
Right.
As crazy as that is, the fact that we're top of the NFC, a 10-2 record, have won all these games. I mean, it's the comeback kings maybe, but it's like, do we always have to rely on that after a season ago where it was hey, we get up by 20 and all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, you're gonna not be able to stop us because we're gonna get 5 yards of carry, game over. And so it's just very different this season. And I don't know. I mean, as I look at it, I'm thinking, hopefully we can find some adjustments with the O-line. There's a little bit more physicality, but I also feel like the play calling for sure. And I mean, you'll probably seen this all over Twitter and everywhere else too, but it's like Brian Johnson as the OC gets so much crap. And I think rightfully so for the most part, although I then start questioning how much is Nick Sirianni involved? Is there the micromanaging? Because we saw a lot of these elements whenever the Eagles were 2-5 in his first season with Shane Steichen, and then all of a sudden he gives the keys over to Shane Steichen. It's like, hey, you know what? You're the OC now. Like, you call the plays, kind of back off. I'm gonna let you do this, and we saw a big difference. And so this feels like a little bit of a resorting back to a little bit too pass happy. And Brian Dawkins, even on the local radio, was saying how this team is not as physical. It doesn't impose their will. You want offensive linemen to get in the game early so that they feel that presence and they're like, all right, now we can get going. And I feel like so many times they take the offensive line out of the game, even if it's hey, you know what? Sometimes a 2-yard run is as ineffective as it was. It's more about setting it up for later, And so I don't know if it's just getting away from it too early, but that in combination with, we're incredibly slow. We're incredibly slow paced. And not that we were, really fast paced offense last season, but this year it feels like we are moving like dinosaurs to like first down. Okay, cool. You got 3 yards. All right, let's get up to the line of, or let's go to huddle. And then let's get up to the line of scrimmage. We stream every time during the games, and it feels like every single time I'm like, oh, barely getting the snap away, 2 seconds left on the play clock. So I would love to see a little bit of a tempo change, something there, because you're just giving the defense a chance to be like, all right, well, we're going to take all day here because we can see, okay, here's your lineup. Here's what you're doing.
Right.
Maybe we see this coming here. And we use the last, we're dead last in the league in motion percentage too. So it's not like we're taking forever to then run some motion to trick you. It's like, what you see is what you get. Like, this is the formation we're going to run here. So I don't know. I know they run different schemes off of it, but to me, it just feels like there's maybe a little bit of a too much of a vanilla approach. And then in combination too of, I don't think the players are faultless either. But yeah, it's one of those that even though you could say statistically, hey, we're up there top 10 in a lot of categories offensively, it just seems disjointed at times. I don't know what the case fully is, but I do believe you need to impose your will. You need to get a little more physical. So I'm hopeful we get 25, 30 runs in the game against Dallas. We see how that one turns out. Sirianni promised that we're going to get more running plays, but again, he said a lot of things, as have the other coordinators, and then we're like, well, okay, what are you talking about? There's been no change. So I don't know. I'm hopeful, but that's kind of where I'm at on the offense anyway.
So that's interesting, right? Because I haven't heard that about the dynamic of the offensive play calling. Like, could it still be Sirianni kind of just over Brian Johnson, but Brian Johnson's going to be kind of the fall guy? Because I know a lot of Eagles fans online, it's just shooting shots at Brian Johnson, rightfully so, right? Because I remember there was a play call when we played you guys last time. It was in the fourth quarter, and you guys could have sealed the game, but you threw the ball. It was an incompletion, and we ended up getting the ball. It's like, why would you call that? So it's just like, there's sometimes the things when I sit back and just watch the Eagles objectively, just sitting back like, oh, this offense doesn't feel the same. So, like, I feel like you guys are really missing Shane Steichen. But, my guy Mike asked a great question. He said Philly's run game last year was dominant because of the RPOs, but with Jalen Hurts, I don't think it can be as effective. Now, Jalen Hurts is kind of limited, right? But I don't think maybe, and I kind of talked about this in the offseason, maybe it's not Jalen Hurts being hurt, but maybe it's because you just poured a boatload of money into your quarterback and you don't want him out there being kamikaze, putting himself at risk because you experienced what happened at the end of the season. So maybe that can be it, why you're not as RPO-ish, option heavy, and you see Jalen Hurts kind of running kamikaze. Do you think that could lean towards some of the thought process offensively?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, how many times you go to a parking lot and you see the most expensive car parked way out, out of the middle of nowhere. You don't want to get close to all the congestion. All of a sudden, you're going to get a ding on it and get injured, or have issues. So I think that could certainly be it. As much as Sirianni, again, all offseason, and I think everybody realizes this. The press conferences, half the things that they say are like, okay, I got to say something here, I got to respond.
Right.
But are we going to get a legit change? And that's what Sirianni said all offseason. He's like, nope, hey, Jalen's the same guy. He got all this money. We're not going to change anything. Jalen's going to be Jalen. It's like, well, okay, really? Because we don't just pay everyone $200+ million and guarantee all this money. So
Right.
it's not too shocking or surprising on that side. I don't know. It's one of those that's a little, I don't know. It's a little interesting, but I would love to know, and we probably will never know, but I'd love to know a little more insight of how much is this with a Sirianni, with a Brian Johnson. You played Madden. I mean, I played Madden.
Right.
It feels like, and actually the report was that Sirianni, so Dave Spadaro, Eagles insider, had said that Sirianni will essentially help put together the game plan and then give Brian Johnson, I'm going to paraphrase. I'm not getting the exact quote, but basically like options to go with, and then it's Brian Johnson's call. So the way that I envision that when I hear that is, hey, here's your Ask Madden. You have 3 options to go with, Brian, and whatever you want to pick, that's great, but don't do anything outside of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, are you really the OC at that point? Are you really a play caller?
You know, give a little template. Like, right. Yeah, I could do that. You know what I'm saying? Give me 3 plays to call. You know what I'm saying? Like I can go out there and do like, oh, exactly. You know, I like this. You know, so yeah, and I think a lot of football fans don't understand the dynamic with the offensive coordinator and the play caller. It makes a difference, right? Because last year, even with the interception thing that everyone was talking about, I was saying, listen, Kellen Moore being involved in the play calling is impacting things drastically. No, it's not. I'm like, listen, that is with all these different option routes. You saw CeeDee Lamb and all these different wide receivers bouncing the ball off their chest and miscommunications leading to interceptions. Like that can have an impact. And it's funny how you remove one little caveat and then the offense is still off to the races and Dak Prescott is playing to an MVP level. So sometimes it's just that little disruption could lead to impacting things on the field. And I think a lot of fans understand that. So if it's a difference in philosophy, or maybe Brian Johnson isn't comfortable with the 3 plays that Sirianni gives him, he's not fully unlocking his capability and working at his full capacity. So if you're going to hire a guy to be the OC, you got to let him cook. You can't baby him. Got to take the training wheels off. So we'll see ultimately what happens. But I want to get over to the defensive side of the ball, right? Because last year, I feel like that was your strong point. I feel like that was part of your identity, was your defense. Now, even though your secondary is playing better, you always had the trenches. Like that's what the Philadelphia Eagles really focus on: defensive line, the trenches, getting pressure, which you guys still do. But thus far, man, your defense hasn't shown up and playing at that Super Bowl level that we saw last year. So what do you think is ultimately impacting your defense? Is it a talent thing? Is it a scheme thing? Or is it, you know, pretty much a collaboration of both?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew 100%. There feels like there's so many excuses or maybe, you know, possibilities that I could go with. I think it's a combo of those. You know, Desai it's his, I think, second full season as a DC. He had one previously, or maybe a couple years. I may be getting that wrong, but very new to it, right? So it wasn't. I don't. This is just my opinion. I don't know that Desai was the ultimate choice. Like, I feel like if Philly could have chosen, they would have gone with Vic Fangio because he was the consultant for the Eagles late last year. And that seemed to be a natural, hey, tap you on the shoulder, you're going to become the DC. But then Jonathan Gannon and all of his antics and saying, I'm going to stay. And then he's actually not going to the Cardinals.
Right.
It just blew up everything. And all of a sudden, you know, Vic's out the door going to Miami. There's no way that we can bring him back. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, well, now who do we get for the defensive coordinator? So I don't know, but that's a moot point, obviously, because we had changed that. Vic's in Miami.
Right.
But as far as looking at the defense, you know, it's one of those that as much credit as we would give to Howie Roseman, he's been phenomenal. We've talked about the draft and getting those players, the acquisitions, other guys that he's brought in. I feel like it was a mistake, and I said this as soon as the offseason or the free agency period started, of TJ Edwards getting out the door. Like Kaiser White leaving too. Yeah. Linebacker is never valued in Philly, or hardly ever, you know, and certainly with the Howie Roseman days of linebacker, it's going to be like, oh, we'll see what we can get. But TJ Edwards, I mean, the dude's leading, the dude's leading tackler for the Bears. And, you know, it's like that type of mentality is what we need. And I think it's more than just the stats too. Like, I think he would be great as well, but also we talk about, like, you know, I mentioned like that intensity or the identity of the team. You're kind of missing something, I feel like. And I've been, you know, a supporter of Nakobe Dean. I think and hope that there's something maybe that he can show up, but it's probably next season at this point because the injury, foot injury multiple times. It's one of those that he got drafted in the 3rd round and kind of fell to us from Georgia. And he was one that I was like, sweet. All right. Hey, that's a guy that he probably should have been drafted a little earlier. So maybe this turns into something. But clearly it wasn't good enough in the first year, but still it's, like rookie season. All right. Not as big of a deal. TJ Edwards, he's going to get the start, and he played phenomenal. Didn't give the position back, which is great. But just because Nakobe was there, I don't know if it was Howie saying like, no, we got him. We like him. I think he can develop. He can take this next jump, whatever it was. But I think you've seen a huge misstep in the middle of the field, specifically with the linebackers, with CJ Gardner-Johnson leaving, and that second safety play. Now, we got Kevin Byard to hopefully shore that up. But so far, I mean, if we're being honest, like Byard's not made a significant impact. He made a good interception against Kansas City. Hey, we'll take it. It helped us win the game.
That's that one play I talked about.
It may be. Yes, for sure. It may be. But many, many times it feels like the middle of the field has been that constant issue of, and we had some injuries to our slot corners. Avonte Maddox out for season. The second backup in Zach McPherson out for season, Achilles injury. So there's some stuff there. But again, all NFL teams experience injuries. So I hate the excuse of, well, we lost so-and-so. Unless it's, there's a few I'll give you. If you lose your quarterback for the season and stuff like that. But if you're losing, just kind of some piece players there, I don't like it to say, oh, well, that's the reason you're dead last. If we're middle of the pack, then okay, I can understand. But dead last, there's other issues. And so I really think it's a combo. You got some players and personnel, and Brian Dawkins even said it too. He's like, I know that Desai deserves a little bit of criticism, but he's like, if I'm Desai and from what I've seen from players, I'm not comfortable calling all these schemes and all these plays that we should be calling because of what I'm seeing from the players. And, if that's good enough for B-Doc, it's good enough for me. He's saying that.
Right.
So I don't know, but, I don't even think we have to be, I've said this many times on different shows and to Philly fans, but I'm like, we don't have to be our Super Bowl level, top defense that we were last season. We just need to be like within the top 20, like to get this thing down from dead last in 3rd down percentage. And then we'll be pretty good because the offense is certainly the one that's going to carry so far. But right now it's one of those that we're 10-2. We're in a decent position. I'm hopeful. I think there's a chance that we win on Sunday, but it's also, to me, the best way to describe it, it feels like the screws are being held together by some duct tape, and this is the kind of breaking point. Are we going to get it figured out? Is the acquisition of Shaq Leonard going to help? And will we start to get a little bit better in transition with Sean Desai? Or is everything about to fall apart? I don't know, and that's where I'm hopeful we see something different on Sunday. But I think it's a combination of those issues.
Yeah, and that's a good analogy, right? I feel like when you look at this Eagles team, like you said, the duct tape, it's just hanging like every little game, like they're just right there, like they're shaking. You're trying to get to the gas station without your car falling apart.
It's not good for our health.
Yeah, I can imagine, right? Especially like games versus Washington and different things like that. So it's really hard to gauge who this Philadelphia Eagles team is. Even with the Kansas City win, which I felt was a great win for you guys, it's just like MVS doesn't drop that ball, things end differently. So it's just like those types of things. So it's like, do you feel like this is still a championship caliber team? Or it's like, all right, we got more work to do than we thought. Because like I said, when I lost to the 49ers in that first game when we played them this year, it broke my spirit. I'm not going to lie. A lot of people came on my live show. I'm like, man, we are far away from where we need to be. But if you had to gauge it, like how closely you feel like the Eagles are to being back to the Super Bowl, but not only getting back, but winning it, do you feel like they're close, or did the 49ers just knock you back a few spaces?
Yeah, I still think that we're close. And it's because of, I guess the thing that I would hold to is, and again, I mean, fortunate. I don't believe in luck, but I'll definitely say fortunate with the MVS drop in that game. So there's
he
some
dropped
things
another one the week after. So
right, yeah,
he's not a fan favorite here in Kansas City right now, man.
He's been hearing it for sure. But it's one of those that at the same time we've gone through this so-called gauntlet of schedule. That's what we're calling it here in Philly, but everybody else has different names for it. But whatever, it's a very difficult portion of the schedule. And to say that we go 3-1. And this is kind of the last game here of the supposed gauntlet coming up. So even if it's a 3-2, I mean, it's not terrible, all things considered. And I think that we have a good chance of winning it. So if you go 4-1, well, what are we complaining about here? We'd be a 10 or 11-2 team having won these games. Now, if you look at it, sure, I'll give you that it's not clean. But I'd also argue, like, I don't think that we've played a complete game all season long. But I've said it. I've been like, it is frustrating when I'm watching a game on Sunday and the Cowboys have no problem just blowing a team out that they should blow out. And then all of a sudden we got to go to the Eagles, who, oh my gosh, we're down by 10 points to Washington. What are we doing? We're messing with them. We're playing with our food. And all of a sudden we're like, oh, wow, we actually won it, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
But, how often can you do that? How many times? Because the NFL, as you know, it's hard to win games.
It is.
And that's the part where it's like, I'm cautiously optimistic because I do feel like if this team could somehow, hopefully, in these last few weeks, they start getting a little bit of momentum in terms of let's play a couple complete games, because I don't think that we've really done that, then I can't even really picture, envision in my mind what is this team going to be like, because we've proven we can still not play great and win against some good football teams. So again, that's not really a great, I don't think, philosophy or strategy to rely on in playoffs. Like, you need to play complete football. But that's where I'm cautiously optimistic, because I'm saying the potential, if we can put things together, is still a Super Bowl caliber team. But that's the question is, can these coordinators figure it out? Does the personnel start playing up to expectations? We'll see, which is weird to say for a 10-2 team. I know, but that's kind of,
it's hard, right? Because even for the Cowboys standpoint, it's like, we're having a phenomenal season, only have 3 losses, but you're still, I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah.
But I think if you look around the league, that's for a lot of teams. It's like you probably asked Detroit Lions fans, they felt like they were probably one of the best teams in the NFC. And then you saw what happened on Thanksgiving, and you don't know. The 49ers, right? They're flying high. They had 3 games they lose, and now they're, so it's like it's been a lot of up and down. And I think it's going to make the playoffs fun. But I think when we look for you guys, like the next 2 games, Sunday night, but also versus Seattle, is going to be extremely important, because if you lose to the Cowboys, which we all kind of expect you will, lose to the Cowboys, and then let's say, for instance, now hopefully the Seahawks will play you like they played us. I mean, because my God, they were out for blood versus us.
Good gosh, and what was that spread? It was like a 9.5 spread.
Yeah, they were
I'm like, oh well, there's no chance here. And all of a sudden,
I was sitting back watching that game, like, okay, we're gonna blow the gate out. Here we come, fourth quarter.
Yeah,
I'm like, man, they're still competing. Like, just lay down, Gino. Give up, Gino. Like, God. All right, bro, we get it. Okay, I got some respect on your name, right? But yeah, if Seattle was to go out there and play like that and put you guys in a close game, then you kind of get into I call the tank sandwich, where you play DeVito, the Giants, or they could get their quarterback back, and then you have Kyler Murray, and then you get the Giants again. So for me, it's important not to kind of back into the playoffs without knowing who we are. But that could be the case for the Eagles if they don't show improve for these next 2 games. We kind of go in like, all right, we lost to the Cowboys, struggled versus Seattle, but we blew out the Giants twice, and we blew out the Cardinals, and here we are. Are we playoff ready? Can we even afford to have a bye week? Like, those things start to really come into play. Versus for the Cowboys standpoint, I keep telling Cowboys fans, we're going to have blood in our mouth. I mean, as soon as we get done with you guys, I got a bunch of Bills fans on Instagram who they're going to be jumping through tables with my face on it, man. They're so mad at me for my Josh Allen meme, so they're coming for me.
Ready.
And then you got to turn around and play the Dolphins, who are high octane, so you got some tough games coming up. I feel like the Cowboys are really going to be battle tested, but for the Eagles, that might not be the case. So my guy, before I let you go, because I know you're going to be out there in AT&T Stadium, you're going to be, are you going to probably wear your Kelly Green or something like that? You're going to pull out something nice for the game.
I've got the lucky AJ jersey, actually. So
okay.
it was the vintage Carson Wentz. You mentioned the whole, Jalen Hurts getting drafted. I was one of those that was screaming like, what the heck are we doing? So it was a Carson Wentz jersey. And then carried on, but that one is also the part of the undefeated streak, so it's 2-0. But we keep it alive. It's converted to an AJ Brown.
Everyone in the chat, man, in the streak, man. We can't let him walk in our stadium with that streak, man, because I can't let that happen. But
gotta keep it going.
I'm gonna put you on the spot, man. Go ahead and give us your prediction for Sunday night's game.
Sunday night, all right. I'm gonna say, I really don't believe that there's a way that we. For sure, we're not shutting down your offense. So I'll say that. I am hopeful that there is a very partial limitation of the offense, but I think it's going to be a very high scoring game regardless. So I'm going to say that Philly wins. I think it's going to be a really close game too, but I'm going to say Philly wins like 34-31. That's what I'm going to go with.
34-31, so about 3.
Yep.
I can kind of see.
How about you?
Yeah. I feel like it's going to be a tough matchup, right? And here's what I'm saying. The Eagles got embarrassed, right? So they got blood in their mouth. So they're going to be foaming at the mouth and want to come out and play. And even though the Cowboys beat Seattle, is like their defense didn't play well. You know, their defense can't be sitting back kicking their feet up, because even today they said they had full padded practice on the Thursday, right? So I think they're kind of getting their temperament back. Like, hey, even though we won versus Seattle, we're not going to rest, because that did not look good. So you're going to see guys like Deron Bland possibly come out there with a chip on his shoulder, and Micah Parsons, and list goes on and on. So I think this defense is going to be revved up, and ultimately I think the Cowboys will get the win. Now, the most important piece, we didn't talk about it, I feel like when you look at the Cowboys and the Eagles, the difference is penalties. Y'all are one of the less penalized teams in the NFL, and we're the highest. I mean, we jump all sides just for the hell of it, just for fun. You know, like, let's just jump all sides real quick, you know? So if we do those things and we take a, 3rd and 7 and we jump all sides, and then it's 3rd and 2, but we all know what's coming, right? That can definitely change the course of the game. So that could be why Mike McCarthy had the officials out there at practice the other day, like, all right, let's get things fixed, because we have to play clean football, which I think the Cowboys were due. So ultimately, I have the Cowboys winning on Sunday night, 31-24 over the Philadelphia Eagles, and we're going to be tied in the division. And then the fun is really going to begin online, man. So,
all right.
There it is, man. There it is, Cowboys Nation.
Broken.
You know, Cowboys Nation. You're saying, go out there and get this win, because I can't let him break my home streak. You know what I'm saying? If he breaks my home streak, then we have nothing, right? So we got to go out there and get this win, man. But hey, Josh, it was a pleasure having you on. For everyone who's seeing you for the first time, let everybody know where they can find you.
I appreciate it. Yep. No, that's awesome, Tuck. Yeah, I'm on X at the Philly, or at the PHI special, but on YouTube it's the Philly special show. So been rolling now for 9 or 10 months. Crazy how that's been going, but yeah, I usually try to post. It depends, but most of the time, like, once every day. If I can get to it, takes a while for all the sifting through content, as you know. But yeah, that's usually the form of communication, is either through Twitter or YouTube. I'm also on Instagram, though. It's at the PHI special as well. So either way, hit me up there. I have a blast. There's several Cowboys fans that comment on a lot of videos, so I do appreciate it. And again, as always, I mean, I have a blast. You've seen all the movie clips that I like to use. I love movies too, so I've like minored in film appreciation in college. So you get all the movie references and clips and everything else, but there's a lot of sarcasm that goes into it. So I appreciate it as always.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk, man, because my daughter, she's expected to go to Baylor next year, so I need to pick your brain about Baylor University. So that's her number
all the
one
tips
school.
On the professors and who to take, who not to take, and all that. Yeah,
we're waiting on the acceptance letter, so we shall see. That's her number one school, so she wants to be a Baylor Bear. So they're always sending me different things, coming like come to family day and all sorts of stuff. So I'm a Jayhawk, I'm a Jayhawk. So it's like, but she doesn't want to go to KU. So you know how kids are. But yeah, man, like I said, man, I'm not just saying it because you're on the show, man. I appreciate your content, even if you're a Cowboys fan, man. Follow his content, because you're gonna learn something. Like sometimes you have to watch your enemy, keep a close eye on your enemy, but you're gonna learn a lot. You're gonna be entertained, and it's going to be exciting, and it's gonna be refreshing. Definitely go give him a follow, man. You will not be disappointed. And for those of you who are seeing me for the first time, J Tuck 151 on all social media platforms. That's Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Follow me on the YouTube channel CFO Sports. We are gearing up, everyone, for draft season. So like Josh said, man, that's when we open our doors and say, okay, everyone come on in. It's draft season, so we're about to start dropping some draft content, start diving in deep. But we also got a lot of Cowboys content. For those of you who will be at the game this Sunday, the Dez Bryant Big Dallas Tailgate, I will be out there at Texas Live. Stop by, say hi. There's supposed to be a lot of guests out there. I mean, he got so many guests lined up, and I'm not one of them. Like, he's like, I got some big guests. I'm like, you don't put me on the list as a big guest, or I'm just an extra, So but definitely come.
I saw that tweet. I was like, oh man, that's gonna be good,
Everyone's like, are you one of the surprise guests? Like, I'm not that big, y'all. Like he got some real surprise guests. I'm just a regular. But definitely come out there, have a good time. Sunday night is going to be fun, man. I think AT&T is going to be rocking. Like I said, AT&T is not really a football stadium, but for a game like this, it will be. I feel like everyone's going to be up. They're going to be fired up and energetic. It's definitely going to be a fun time, and I cannot wait to see my Dallas Cowboys beat the Philadelphia Eagles, man. So Cowboys Nation and Eagles Nation, appreciate you both for tuning in. Give us both a follow. Appreciate all the support. I want everyone to stay safe, stay blessed, stay encouraged, and go Cowboys. Peace.
Go Birds.